Do this.
I was going to say one. Okay. Yes, you did. Hi. Am I heard? Am I seen? Hello. Okay.
Ready?
You good? Okay. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the start of this week's NAGB Virtual Summer Program. Today, for the beginners, we're going to be looking at paper mache. So what this activity focuses on is recycling. So we have a stack of old newspapers, containers, and other containers that can be used, including oil cans, paper, and refine, and flour. We also need a container to mix, and then we have our Halloween container right here. Okay, so in order to do this activity, you need what I should mention, the water should be warm. Doesn't have to be hot, it's just a little bit warm. Something warm water from the tap is fine, as long as it's not cold, and that's just so that we don't get a bunch of crumbs in our flour mixture. So we're going real old school, and we are not using glue, but flour, so that we can, we're doing that for a number of reasons. One, some glues, not very much these days, can be kind of toxic, and using natural materials tend to be better for us. And this one was just readily available to us, so I'm sure if your parents have flour in their cupboard. Okay. So
doesn't have to be Robin Hood.
It doesn't. Certainly, this is not branding. It doesn't need to be Robin Hood. Okay. So we're gonna mix 1 part flour and 2 parts warm water. So this is the amount of flour that I'm gonna take. So that means when I add the water to it, I'm gonna use 2 of these for every 1 flour that I do. Okay. So I'm gonna open my warm water, and I'm gonna measure out 2 of these. And you want to make sure that it gets pasty. So you may need to play with the formula a bit. It's fine. It's not an exact science. It's an art.
So 2 cups of water, 1 cup of flour.
1 cup of flour. And it doesn't have to be exactly. You may not want to make as much as I did. You might want to do a little less, but how much ever flour you use, you want to use twice as much water so that you can get that paste-like consistency. And again, warm water is better so that we don't get a whole lot of clumps in our flour. And we want to mix until we get it smooth.
So if you were using a 1/2 cup of flour, you would use
1 cup of water. Exactly. I'm gonna do that until I got all those little lumps out.
I'm gonna check on sound.
Okay.
I'll just put on the tripod.
So it's a little pasty now. We want to keep mixing until it's not so much watery, but more pasty. Making a mess, it's okay. If you make a mess, messes are fine. Okay, so as you can see, my mixture is still very watery. So to combat that, I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit more flour in. Yeah, almost like you're making dumplings. Okay. Okay, So you want to feel a little bit of pullback from the mixture, but not a lot. You don't want it to be dumpling. You want it to be more of a glue-like paste consistency. Okay. Now that we have that, we're just going to set that on the side, and we're going to prepare our item for paper mache. So you can do paper mache with a number of different items. So today, what I wanted to do was create miniature flower pots that you can start as your like very first planter, or you can use for decorative purposes. Okay. So I mean, ideally, you want to use something that you don't care if it gets damaged, an old can, an old water bottle, an old container. Okay. But if you don't have access to any of that right now, you can borrow one of your mother's cups. And I'll show you how to prepare it so that you don't damage it. And remember that the size and shape of the item you use is going to be the size and shape of the planter that you create. So you want to pick one that's interesting to you. Okay. So to start, there are a couple of ways you can prepare your item. Like I said, with these, we don't really care too much because they're trash or we're repurposing. So we're not going to do a whole lot of preparation to that. Just going to find some grease in your house. You can also use oil. And we're going to lather up the outside of it a bit. And the reason we're going to do that so that when it's time to take the dried paper mache off, it comes off easily. Okay? No trouble at all.
So this is what coconut oil there.
Oh, this one is just coconut oil grease that I had it. Because I don't use grease anymore. Okay. So just trying to find new ways to use things. We're just going to rub that around. It's okay. Your hand's going to get very messy during it, and that's fine.
What else do you use?
You can also use cooking spray, like I'm going to show you, or you can use oil. That's also an option. If you have some lard in the cupboard and your mother's doesn't have a problem with you farting with it, you can definitely go ahead and use that. And like I said, this is a messy little experiment. So you want to put down some newspaper just to keep mommy's house clean. Okay. So if you're going to use a cup or a glass at home that you don't want to damage, you're going to just need some foil to cover the outside of it, and you're going to smooth the foil on around it. And then you can either cover with grease, but I'm going to use cooking spray so you can see how we would use the cooking spray to prepare. Okay? Okay, that's prepared. Our third item is, or will be, your newspaper for the paper mache. So I'm going to come down here a bit. So let me just show you how I cut the paper for the paper mache. So if we're using newspaper, I just cut along the lines that the natural paper gave me. Okay? So I started by cutting along this line. And then I opened up and I cut along this line. And I just piled a whole bunch of these on top of each other, one after the next, until I was satisfied that I would have enough to cover the item that I was making. And feel free to make multiple pots, because the more you have, the better your decorative installation is gonna look. So then once I've cut them and I have a bunch of strips like that, I'm gonna go ahead and cut them into smaller strips. Be very careful with the scissors. You don't wanna hurt yourself. Notice I'm cutting away from myself, not towards. I'm working outside, so there's a bit of wind, and that's fine. Thank you. Helps to have assistance. Have your siblings help you. And because the items that I'm making or using to paper mache are kind of small, I don't want really long strips like this. So I'm gonna cut them in half. I would say no more than 5 inches per strip. And if you're watching on YouTube, now would be a great time to pause and take the time and cut out multiple strips for yourself. Okay? So I have all of my strips. I'm gonna bring them over here to my set. And we're gonna start by, we're going to dip it in our mixture. We're gonna just scrape it off a bit. And I'm gonna start with this one right here because it's closest. Let's just smooth it down a little bit. And you just go strip after strip until you've completely covered the item you've selected. It's gonna be a little tricky. You might tear the paper, but that's okay. We have our own homemade glue to fix that. And as you can see, again, it's quite messy. So we want to make sure that we have some paper laid out, some napkins or towels available to us. But you want to make sure that you're covering the entire item and you're smoothing that down. I'm just going to keep going until I've smoothed this over. Some of you may still be cutting your strips, and that's fine. As you finish cutting, just start pasting. And this video will be available on YouTube, so you can come back and catch up at any time. Messy is the word today. Just dipping, scraping it off gently, and then pasting it down. I'm going to smooth it over. So this is Ian. He's our head of security here at the gallery, and he's also going to participate with us. It's okay if it's not perfect. We're just going to smooth it down. This is going to take some time to dry. So what we're going to do once we're done with all of these is put them out to dry. And then you're going to leave them until I see you again on Wednesday, when we're going to remove our cast and paint and design our planters. I'm not going too high up because I want my planter to be relatively small, but I'm going to try and make it as even to the top as possible. But again, you don't have to make it super even, because once we take the cast off on Wednesday, you'll see how we can remedy that. Okay, so I'm going to leave that one there to dry. I'm going to put it on the side, and I'm going to do my container now. This is the one that we paired with, because this is not a big deal if it gets messed up.
It's probably best to put it in the sun.
Yes, it's best to put it in the sun and dry fast, and we have plenty of sun where we are. Very reminiscent of jump through pacing. Very relaxing. More relaxing than I thought it would be. Even though it's messy, but math is good sometimes.
So I noticed that some of the edges aren't smooth, but you said you could fix that once it's
right. Dry. So like I said, just get it on as fast as you can, as smooth as you can, but no panicking if it isn't super smooth, because we can fix that once it's dried out. And you also don't want to put too much on top of it, because it'll just start falling away. So you just want to make sure that you cover all the areas that you need to. So I'm also doing it on the side instead of just smoothing it down, just to take off some of that paste. If you have the paste off, it dries faster. So keep less paste on it than I am. And I'm learning with you today. This is my first time doing paper mache. Isn't that nice? So we're doing it together. All right. And when you're satisfied with the thickness and the shape of your item, you can go and move on to your next item. I'm going to do 3 of these because I like the rule of 3.
Tommy, come on. I can stop right there. I just gonna put one right around here.
All right, so this one is going to be done for me. And I'm going to do my last one, which is my empty monster can. Again, you can use just about anything that you like the shape of to create paper mache in the shape that you like it. And again, edges don't need to be super smooth, as long as it's okay. You can fix that later once it's dried. This is going to be my last one. As I wrap this up, if anyone has any questions, please do ask in the Zoom chat or post on YouTube. We're paying attention to the question section. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. A lot of wind out here today. That's okay. We still like working outside in nature. We'll clean all that up.
Yeah, we can get that out.
We won't leave it there. Yeah. And so
All right, kids. See you all next week.
we'll actually see you on Wednesday to finish this up. Okay.
All
And
right.
just like you just saw Ian do, we're gonna
Bye,
move these
Ian.
to the sun. Bye, Ian. Thank you for joining
All right.
us. I'm gonna put these in the sun. I have to clean it later. You won't leave. You have to play sturdy, kids. Okay? My hands are messy now. Thank you for joining us. Share your work to NAGB on our email. The links are in the YouTube description and in the Zoom chat. Take care.
See you on Wednesday.
Bye.